Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. And Professor Lang, I think we can start. Yeah. Okay, good morning again. Good afternoon. My name is Davide. I'm a former EPOG student, as you are today. And today we are going to discuss and talk about ESMA, which is the European Securities and Market Authority. And I will give you first an introduction on what ESMA is, because you may not know it. And then I will focus to the newly published proposal on the saving and investment unions. I think I will have around 45 minutes, and then our colleagues will take over, and then there will be a Q&A session. So, just to give you some idea where we are going, again, I will give you an introduction on ESMA. By raise of hands, who knows, except you, what ESMA is? Very nice. We need to publish and communicate better on the external world. But okay, and I will give you, more importantly, that I will give you some introduction on what ESMA is. Then we will spend some time on the Savings and Investment Union, which is a new legislative proposal, is really recent, something that came out, was published in December last year. So it's almost only 1 month that is out. And then what are the next steps on the SIU. Starting with the introduction to ESMA, again, is the European Savings and Market Authority. And perhaps just to start, do you know what or who is your national regulator at home, in your home country? Okay. Others? Sorry? The question is, do you know from your jurisdiction, from your country, who is the national regulator in securities and markets? For instance, I'm Italian, and my regulator at home would be CONSOB. If you're French, it's the Autorité des Marchés Financiers. Financial markets, not central banks, financial markets. Please, sorry. Correct. Yes, perfect. These are, let's say, our counterparts. We work, the name is simple, yes. In Germany, for instance, it's BaFin, CNMV. In Portugal, it's CMVM. But each jurisdiction has its own national regulator. And ESMA, you can see it as one entity that coordinates or directly supervises financial markets. And we cooperate with what we call national competent authorities at EU level, in some cases also at global level. So I already gave you a spoiler. We are a regulator. So we make technical rules. The rules are done, we call it level 1 legislation that are done at European Commission level. Once the European Commission has published the level 1 legislation, it's if there is a mandate in the legislation, in the mandate, for ESMA to produce technical legislation, which we call level 2. So this is one big piece of work where ESMA works. We call them technical standards, or level 3 legislation, if we go even more into the details. Then we are supervisors. For instance, currently in my role, I'm a supervisory officer. It means that in certain specific legislations, we are the central supervisor. It means that there is no supervisor at national level. The supervision is done centrally at EU level. Then there is direct supervisory convergence. Here, to put it in more simply, is to put national competent authorities at the same table and make sure that EU legislation is done, supervised, enforced consistently and harmonized at EU level. Why? Because otherwise, if you have different approaches across EU, you tend to have regulatory arbitrage, and it's an impact that at EU level it means that you don't have common market, you don't have common supervisory actions, you favor some jurisdiction towards others. In the past years, we became also an IT and data hub, because it's better to have a common IT infrastructure to share data rather to have 27 little databases. And this is something that has been done from the very beginning. Provision at national competent authority level, at the more broader public level, risk and analysis from our economics department. So if you go on the ESMA website, you will find plenty of application on how financial markets are moving. And these three are in the ESMA regulation, because to establish an agency, an authority in the EU, you need to have a funding regulation. In our case, it is the ESMA regulation, but for all the other authorities, you will have the EBA regulation, the IOPA regulation, etc. And the three most important activities that we do is, first of all, investor protection. If with your savings you would like to invest in the financial markets, on a share, an ETF, or in general entering the financial market, and you go to your bank, at some point they will ask you something like the MiFID II questionnaire to understand what is your risk appetite, your knowledge on financial markets, what is your preference in terms of ESG products. This is part on the investor protection activities that we do. Orderly markets. Here is markets. We are talking about stock exchanges. We are talking about central counterparties and all the infrastructural part of the market. Here the idea is that we make sure that all these infrastructures are working correctly. There are no, the transparency in terms of price formation is done correctly. And lastly, but not least, financial stability. ESMA and many of these authorities, they were developed around the period of the financial crisis of 2008. And we experienced what a financial crisis meant. At that time, there was no authority. ESMA was funded 2011. Before there was a committee, but a proper authority that focused on financial stability was not there. It was established after the financial crisis, and this still remains one of our core missions. Now, here you have all the regulations, topics on which we work. Caveat, I do not cover all of them, so if you ask me a random one, I may not able to answer, because we are a growing institution with plenty of colleagues, and we tend to be working on one or two regulations, but this is quite a lot. You have on the top part the markets regulation. You have, for instance, I mentioned before MiFID. MiFID II is the one where they ask you your risk preference. European market infrastructures cover derivatives. You have for the repos, you have the SFTR regulation. For securitization, well, securitization regulation, etc. These are the sectorial legislation. On the blue part, these are the, we can say, product of the Digital Finance Act. We have DORA, for instance, not the Explorer, is Digital and Operation Resilience Act, and is, you can see it as the cybersecurity for financial markets. MiCA, this is market and crypto asset regulations, so crypto assets. And this one is distributed ledger technology pilot regulation, so application of the blockchain into trading venues and CSD. And in green, everything is in green here is related some way or another on ESG regulation. So all of these are the current regulation on which ESMA work. It does not mean that they will remain only these that you can see on the screen. It may happen at some point that the new regulations will come forward, or one of those will be amended. If there is an amendment on the legislation, it means that we need to come back working on it. And this is only the regulatory remit. This is direct supervision. So I told you at the very beginning that we do policy making. So we provide technical assistance. We develop technical legislation at EU level. We do not stop there. We are also supervisors. It means that we supervise firms, companies, and traditionally the oldest supervisory mandate that we have is on the credit rating agencies following the crisis in 2011, and slowly towards the years we got more and more supervisory mandates. For instance, myself, I work quite a lot on trade repositories, and these are firms that they provide data to national competent authorities on derivatives or repos, in order for the national competent authorities to understand where the market is going in terms of derivatives. Then you have all the other supervisory mandates. Another one where, for instance, I work quite a lot is the data reporting service providers. They are firms that they provide to national competent authorities information on transactions that occur in their jurisdictions, so that they can monitor how the market is behaving. And towards here, for instance, we have CTPs, another item where there is quite of debate. These firms, they provide, they are getting authorized at this very moment. But these firms, they provide price transparency and price formation on products that are listed on trading venues in Europe. One interesting one, this is our direct supervisory mandates. So again, ESMA is the only supervisor. The joint oversight of critical third-party providers, it's done together with the European Banking Authority and the European Pension Insurance and Pension Occupational Authority. Is the supervision on entities that provides, let's say, digital services to the financial market, meaning now it's published. You can go on the EBA, on ESMA and EIOPA website, a list of firms that fall under this supervision or joint oversight. And for instance, you can have AWS, Amazon, you can have Google, you can have IBM, so all digital provider of services to the financial market. So we started in 2011, and in 2025 we got all the supervisory mandates, and like the regulation before, it does not mean that it will stop there. It may increase, and this is actually the topic later on with the Saving and Investment Union. It may happen that these supervisory mandates, we will add something more under our supervision. Just a quick overview on how ESMA developed in the past 15 years. In 2011, ESMA was only composed of 56 people. Today we are 358, and based on the SIU proposal and the new mandates that we will get, most probably we will continue growing in terms of workforce. We have, I'm quite happy to see that we have a good gender balance. It's almost 50-50 both in terms of all staff and management. And being a European Union authority, it means that basically all the 27 nationalities of the EU are represented. Of course, there are, based on the type, on the size of the countries, you may have more representation. For instance, there are plenty of French colleagues, Italian colleagues, but you also have the more tiny country that are represented, and they have a place at ESMA. And here to give you the different sizes. So this is, I think, is 2024. The previous one was 2025. Our sister authorities, the European Banking Authority and the Pension Authority, are a little bit smaller than us. The SSM is the branch of the central bank that supervises banks. We are still far from the largest one. At global level is the SEC, the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And at national level, we can still see that there are some authorities that are bigger than ESMA. The Autorité des Marchés Financiers, for instance, is around 500. To my surprise, I was not aware CONSOB is bigger, is quite a large entity, 700 staff members. And, well, UKFCA, we used to work with them quite a lot. Post-Brexit, they are not part anymore of our activities, but we maintain good relationship with them. Governance. Everything that I said before, regulation and supervision, everything that is decided at ESMA in terms of body is the board of supervisors that decides on what is ultimately decided at ESMA. It's composed by a chair, and there is a representative for each of the 27 authorities in the EU, plus you can have with non-voting rights, for instance, the European Banking Authority, EIOPA, AMLA, etc. So this is the most important body at ESMA. For the support and to make sure that everything that is done at ESMA, and here we are talking about staffing, budget, there is the management board, which is composed by 6 members of the BOS. And then at technical level, you have committees that, based on the mandate, based on the topic, they provide support on supervisory actions, supervisory convergence actions, and rulemaking. So in this case, for instance, if there is a discussion on investor protection, there is an investment protection standing committee. If there is a disclosure, there is a data standing committee. They provide the final proposal, and then the board supervisor decides to approve or not the project or the piece of legislation. And here, this is not something that I cover much, it's part of another department, but there is the CCP, Central Counterparty Supervisory Committee, to make sure that national competent authorities supervise consistently the CCPs at EU level. And similarly, there is the CCP joint monitoring mechanism to monitor where CCPs are going. And here you have how we interact with the other authorities. Before was what is the interaction within ESMA, what is the governance internally at ESMA. Here you have the interaction with the other authorities. So I already mentioned a couple of times the European Banking Authority. Here, for instance, stress testing and all the legislation on, for instance, on capital requirements is the European Banking Authority. EIOPA is on the insurance and occupational pensions. Us is only securities and markets. No banking, we do not do, I was discussing before with Professor Lang, we don't do banking, it's only securities, it's only products and infrastructures. That's it. Well, I mean, I exaggerate, it's not only, but definitely we don't do much of banking. And the three combined are called the ESAs, the European Supervisory Authorities. Based on the topic, we can cooperate with other EU agencies. If we are talking about cybersecurity, we discuss with ENISA, which is the authority that is in charge of cybersecurity. If we are talking about energy and derivatives on energy, is ACER. If we are talking about money laundering, is the anti-money laundering authority. Every time there is something that is where we need to share information or is a technical legislation that is impact also other authorities, we speak with them. And here is only the micro-prudential supervision. In the moment in which we are moving towards the macro supervision, at that point we start to discuss, as you can imagine, with the ECB, with the national central banks, and with the European Commission. Now, the Q&A session, we do it maybe later, but if you have quick questions that we can tackle now, we do it now. Otherwise, I would move to the Saving and Investment Union. Okay, we have, as I said before, the Saving and Investment Union was something that has been under the discussion since beginning of 2025, but it was published, the official legislative proposal by the Commission in December 2025. It's quite an extensive piece of legislation. It's quite broad. And here I put the main 4 pillars. I will touch on the first 3, but then I would like to cover mainly the part on supervision. But there is one area which we can call it market integration, which are the first 2 pillars, meaning removing obstacles and simplification. Removing obstacles is to eliminate the barriers that occurs to firms that are either on the trading, post-trading, and asset management at EU level. The simplification is also, let's say, they go hands to hands with the removing of the obstacles, because you know what is the difference between a directive and a regulation in EU law. Directive is done at EU level, but then is transposed at national level, and each the main guidelines remain the same, but then each jurisdiction, each country can add something extra in the directive. Regulation is done at EU level, and it falls straight to each jurisdiction, so there is consistent and is the same across the EU. It means that in the moment in which there is a directive, you can have different laws that are applied almost 90% correct, consistently across the 27 countries, but then you have tiny bits of differences between one jurisdiction and another. It means that then at compliance level, when the firm enters in the market, must adapt the its compliance for each jurisdiction. the best probably would be to have one single regulation that is applied consistently across the EU. On the third pillar, you have something at this stage is only a pilot. It's called Distributed Ledger Technology Pilot, or DLT Pilot, blockchain. It was part of the Digital Act in 2020, if I remember correctly, where to experiment, to test if blockchains works or not, it was launched as a sandbox, let's say, and it was proposed that trading venues, so we are talking about trading or post-trading with the CSD, if they wanted, they could enter in that market and use as backbone of their technology the blockchain. At this point, it's still there, but it's still in legislative part, the law is still a pilot, and the idea here is to make it more broader in terms of scope, in terms of size, and it's something that there was a lot of work on this, on the DLT pilot at the beginning as a sandbox. Now the idea is to make it more stable. On supervision, here two main pillars, sub-pillars within supervision, is direct supervision and supervisory convergence tools. And on direct supervision, I will show you now what is today the supervision of these entities and what would be in the minds of the Commission, in the mind of the SIU proposal. Actually, maybe I will start explaining you these type of firms first, and then we go in the current legislation. When we speak about trading venues, we are speaking about mainly stock exchanges, regulated markets. So where the trading occurs. Central counterparties are a type of firm that once the trade is done, it interposes itself between the buyer and the seller and becomes, it applies what is called novation. It becomes the buyer of every seller and the seller of every buyer, so that you avoid that there is a counterparty risk. So imagine that you enter in the trading venue, you buy the instrument, you are sure that the transaction went fine. At that point, you expect that you will get the financial instrument that you want. Better to have an entity that is posed in the middle to make sure that the transaction occurs for real. And then once the buying and reselling is done, you pass through the central securities depositories, and they make sure that there is the actual transfer, the payment for instruments is correctly done. And these are very traditional. These entities have been there for hundreds of years. Stock exchanges, CCPs, crypto asset providers, as you can imagine, is something relatively, crypto asset service providers is a product of one legislation we mentioned before, is MiCA, anything that provides services in the crypto area, crypto exchanges, crypto holders, etc. Now, today, the supervision of all these firms is done, except for a tiny part, it's almost done at supervision at national level. It means that the Italian stock exchange is supervised by the Italian authority, the German stock exchange is done at national level, etc. There is no supervision at EU level. It's only done at national level, except on non-EU CCPs that are, so they belong to another jurisdiction. They are two entities actually, and they are supervised at ESMA level. But for the rest, everything is supervised at national level. Here, the SIU proposal and what was published in December last year by the Commission is to centralize the direct supervision. It means, in general, it's kind of repetitive, but makes the point that largest trading venues, CCPs and CSDs, they would fall under the direct supervision of ESMA. And then the small trading venues, CCPs and CSDs, they would remain at national level. For the CASP, for the crypto asset service providers, little different. It will be all under ESMA supervision. And I checked yesterday on the database, the public database, there are 142 firms that will need to go under ESMA supervision. It's quite a lot. It would change how we do supervision. But this model of having a large the supervision at EU level of the large firm and then the small remain at national level, it's similar. It needs to be still to be defined, but it's very similar to what happens at banking level, because with the SSM and at the ECB level, large banks, they fall, what they call significant banks, they fall under the supervision of the SSM, so it's the ECB coordinating with other national central banks, while small, the least significant banks remain at national level. Here, the proposal is going towards a similar direction. We are in a very early stage, because then we need the debate and the discussion with European Parliament and Council, but we are going towards something similar. The other pillar on supervision is what we call supervisory convergence. I mentioned before, it means ultimately put at the same table all the national competent authorities to make sure that they apply the law consistently in a harmonized way across the EU, avoiding regulatory arbitrage, and to make sure that there is a level playing field. Today, these are the tools, the supervisory convergence tools that we have at our disposal. For instance, we have the preparatory tools. Once there is a legislation, there is, I told you, the level 1, the level 2 is more technical, but in some cases, you need to further explain what the legislation wants. And in this case, for instance, ESMA produces guidelines, Q&As, documents, so that the market, the investors, they know what the legislation requests. Then we have implementation tools. One of the most important one are the Union Strategic Supervisory Priorities, meaning that the BOS and meaning the NCAs, they sit down and they agree what will be the supervisory priorities for the next, let's say, 5 years. For instance, when MiFID II went live, one part was investor protection and market data quality. Since there are a lot of requirements in terms of the firms providing data to the supervisors so that they can supervise, the first thing is to make sure that the data arrive correctly. And for years, one of the supervisory priorities was data quality. In 2023-2028, which is the current cycle, ESG was one of the supervisory priorities. The assessment and remediation tools here are one that we used quite a lot was peer reviews, meaning that a subset of the national competent authorities and ESMA, they and based on the mandate, on the regulation. They organize peer reviews where, imagine, you have 5 NCAs. They go at the premises of one of the NCAs, and the others check how the NCAs is supervising on a specific topic, and then they do the same for the other authorities, and then there is a final report saying you should getting better in this, in that, etc. There is also the product intervention measures, quite important at some point with MiFID II, to make sure that some products considered too risky for the retail investors should have been banned at all. At some point in 2018, the debate and was on binary options and contract for differences. They were considered too risky for retail investors. They were marketed as product for retail investors, while it was not the case. And ESMA with the NCAs decided that this was not possible, and they banned it. This is what is today. In the SIU proposal, everything that is here will remain, and it will be enhanced to make sure that there are collaboration systems across the national competent authorities. The key of the proposal is on funds, on asset management groups. And in this case, when we were discussing before directives and regulations, in some cases you may have different requirements that are divergent across the EU. And the idea here is that ESMA should monitor and intervene in the moment in which there are these divergences across national authorities. How much time do we have left?
I don't remember if it was 45 minutes all in all, or 1 hour, but we are.
It's 45. I can see it.
40 minutes.
Yeah, 40 minutes, perfect. Okay, then let's wrap up. Next steps. And question here. Do you know how the EU legislative process, how does it work? In general, you have other entities that can do that, but the main initiator of the legislation is the European Commission. You have others, but mainly is the European Commission. The SIU proposal is the initiation of the legislative process. It does not mean that the SIU proposal will become law next year. It will not, most probably. There needs time for negotiation and discussion with the other 2 bodies that they have, that they need to discuss with the Commission, which are European Parliament and European Council. It will take time, most probably. Let's see if next year we are still here discussing about the SIU proposal, but for the time being, the Commission has done what they had to do. The SIU proposal is there. It's a matter now of discussion and approval with the other 2 co-legislators in the so-called trialogue, meaning to have the 3 entities together to approve on the final legislation. After that, it will be published on the official journal, and then it will be officially law, and we will know whether or not what we discussed before will become officially law, first of all, and what will be, for instance, the new supervisory mandates for ESMA, whether or not we will move really from directives to regulation only. There is one important point that all these infrastructure that we mentioned, trading venues, CCPs, CSDs, we cannot approach them in silos. All these entities, they work together. It's a kind of a pipeline between, starting from the moment in which the investor decides to invest and enters in relationship with a broker, that enters in a relationship with a trading venue, that then goes to a CCP, that then goes to a CSD, it cannot be approached in different infrastructures. It should be approached in a holistic, more general approach that take into account all these firms that ultimately they are the financial infrastructure of the EU. At ESMA side, once the SIU proposal was published, we welcome it. Happy to cooperate with the co-legislators first, and then the national competent authorities. Again, it was published in December. Somehow it was good to be invited at this seminar so that I had the incentive to go and read the document myself, because it's, and your colleagues know, but it's quite an extensive reading. And again, it will not come tomorrow. It's something that probably next year we will be still discussing this, but I think we have right on time. I will stop here. I will give you the floor, and then we can have the Q&A session. Thank you.